Hello everybody, I think we're going live. Good afternoon, welcome everybody from everywhere, and I hope that you're going to stay with us while we have a fantastic conversation this evening, because it's Dyslexia Awareness Week and we've got some really important stuff to share with you actually that we want you to know, and we're going to have a fabulous conversation. I've got Sue with me from the British Dyslexia Association, so let's find out what we've got prepared for you. So my name's Julia Clouter and I'm an educational advisor, and I have a special interest in dyslexia and reading difficulties in particular. I've been a long-serving, you can hear it in my voice, a long-serving Senko, and also a designated safeguarding lead. And if I've got some Senkos out there, please say hi in the box and add some messages to say that you're with us too, because sometimes it can feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, but you're not alone. And so join us and let us know you're here. And also, if you are a parent of somebody with dyslexia, say hi and let us know that you are here, because this live stream event is important not just for educators but for parents and for people who are dyslexic themselves. You are all welcome to our two-woman party over here, me and Sue. So yeah, I've been a designated safeguarding lead, a Senko. I was a teacher for about 25 years. And I taught in mainstream ed and PRUs, which was a fabulous part of my world, actually. I was really privileged to do some work in PRUs and met many dyslexic young people, actually, who had been excluded from mainstream education. And they taught me an awful lot, I can assure you. These days I spend a lot of my time advising on assistive technology and the development of inclusive classrooms. I'm a writer and I regularly speak about SEN, dyslexia, hidden learning needs, behaviour, and also EdTech solutions, because I like being solution focused. So I'm very proud also to be an interviewer of guests for the charity Succeed with Dyslexia and a presenter of the hashtag Succeed with Dyslexia webinars. Now, you might not know that Succeed with Dyslexia is actually a global think tank, and it's a platform for people to share ideas, campaigns, concerns, success stories, and the challenges of being dyslexic and living with dyslexic people all over the world. This is a fabulous mission that we put success and the importance of success into the dyslexia message. So that's kind of what I'm about. And today I am going to be talking with Sue, and Sue is head of policy. That sounds very difficult. I'll find out how difficult that is in a minute. It sounds like you have to be incredibly clever, Sue, to do that job.
Not sure about that.
Probably to be a head of policy for a very important organisation, which is the British Dyslexia Association, who are, if you've got a problem with dyslexia, it's the BDA that you will go to. So today we're going to be talking about lots of things. One of them is a petition to the government and the BDA's campaign for improved funding for diagnostic assessments and targeted support in schools. It's important we talk about this, and we'll be talking about, hopefully you may be signing up to this petition as we go along, and I'm hoping we'll convince you that that would be a really good idea as we go. It's a brilliant idea. I've done it already, and I know we're going to be talking about that, Sue, but we're also going to be talking about Dyslexia Awareness Week. It's a great time to be sharing good news stories, talking about education and people's educational experiences. So we've got a lot to talk about this evening. I'm very excited. Well, I'd love you to put your questions and comments and post those. Please do, because if we can start getting a dialogue going, that would be amazing. So please join us. Let's get that conversation started. This is a live stream event and it's co-hosted by the British Dyslexia Association and Succeed with Dyslexia. And before I hand over to Sue to start talking to us about the campaign, I'd like to let you know that this event will last for about 40 minutes. Submit those questions. Have I said that? Submit those questions. You know you've got to do that now, don't you? Well done. You can see I'm a teacher, can't you? You want to do what I'm asking you to do. Submit those questions and we'll do our very best to answer them either as we go along. So, I can see that Kirsty's already getting involved. Thank you, Kirsty. Yes, we will certainly ask those questions for you. So if you've not yet gone red for dyslexia, and clearly I have gone red for dyslexia, and you'd like to join in with all of the events that are going on worldwide, we need you to know that, yes, this is an important week, but it's also an important month. Let's give it a whole month. You know, a week is just too short. Let's have a whole month of dyslexia awareness around the world as well, and join in and go red and wear red and get involved in all of these campaigns, because we really have got to get our message out and share. I know, between you and me, that there are bake-offs. I think there's a big red bucket full of events going on, actually. Bake-offs, scavenger hunts, photography competitions, readathons, you name it. There's all sorts going on to raise awareness for dyslexia all around the world, and there's so much you can get involved in. There's a Go Red website that you're welcome to visit, and you can find out what's going on, which buildings are going red all around the world. Honestly, we're going to have a fabulous conversation this evening because there's so much going on. So without further ado, I'm going to give you a statistic. Sorry, it won't hurt. I'm going to give you a statistic that you might find quite interesting, and that is that 10 to 15% of people are dyslexic. That's a huge number of people, and it means that there's between 800,000 and 1.3 million young people in education with dyslexia, and 6.6 to 9.9 million people across the UK with dyslexia. I just find those statistics mind-boggling. Actually, I shouldn't really, should I? Because when I was a teacher, I knew that when I had a class of 30, I might have 3 young people who would have some literacy difficulties that could possibly be dyslexia, but I might not know for sure in front of me. So maybe it shouldn't surprise me that much. Right, well, Sue, dyslexia is a very misunderstood condition, and I'd love to get into this conversation with you about why are so many artists and entrepreneurs and creative people dyslexic? How does that work?
Well, that's a very interesting question, but I think so many dyslexics are in all walks of life, Chloe. That's not, you know, and not just on the creative side. We find we have dyslexic doctors, dyslexic writers, dyslexic drivers, dyslexic everything. And I think that's just really not known. People who are dyslexic can do whatever they want as long as they have that emotional support behind them, and as long as they have that initial perhaps assessment and knowledge that they are dyslexic and they need to work in other ways just to achieve their ambitions. So,
well, you've said lots of things that have made me trigger and fire there, because you said with an assessment support.
Yeah.
And then, but that's not necessarily the experience of many dyslexic people, is it?
No, it's really quite hard to get an assessment, and this is really sad, as it seems to be the only disability, and it's a recognised disability, the only one that we need to actually pay for to get, in most cases, to get that diagnosis. Other disabilities don't have to go through that turmoil to find out what's wrong with them. And it's so helpful if you do know exactly from an assessment where your strengths and weaknesses are. So this is why we're trying to push this during Dyslexia. We have so many messages to give in this Dyslexia Awareness Week. And each year it's really hard to think, what are we going to get across there? There's just so much and so many conversations to be had. But this is one of the key things that we do need to impress on government and those in positions of responsibility, that we do need to have assessments available for people. not just for those that can afford it. So we have a petition out there, which we hope people will sign if they haven't already done so. We need just another 800 signatures, I think, to get this in front of Parliament for discussion.
Right. Well, that's not many, and we'll get them, because everybody here is going to tell their friends to go to where? Where have they got to go to sign the petition?
Go to our website, and I think we'll show it at the end of this talk on a link on where you can go and sign up.
Well, I think we should show it the whole way through periodically and keep telling people to share with their friends and go and sign up, because what we know is that without a dyslexia diagnosis, the life chances for young people in terms of their well-being and their ability to function effectively with their difficulty, with their disability, is hugely impaired. So I'll tell you a little story. Don't like Max Bargraves now, I'll try not to. So when I was teaching in schools, we had traded services, and what would happen was we had to bid or put in a certain amount of money into the pot for educational psychologists at the beginning of the year. And so I knew that X amount of my entire budget for my department would have to go into this pot. And I would think to myself, right, how many educational psychologists might I need this year? I'll take a guess. And I'd say, right, I'll imagine that I will need 5 assessments this year. And of those, I might need 3 of them to have an AMDA qualified specialist to do a dyslexia diagnosis for me. So that's a specific type of qualification that EdPsych has got to have in order to actually do that piece of work of creating a diagnosis. So at the beginning of the year, I would put my money in, and we all know school budgets are tricky things to juggle. So you put aside an amount of money, and you might even do this before you know what your cohort of children are going to be like, because your budget falls down in April. And you don't know about your students really until March, April, May, maybe June. You don't know how you're going to have to spend that money. And so you might be in a position where new children come to the school from different year groups. You might be in a position where you have transition and you don't have knowledge of the learning needs of the children who are coming to you. And then as a Senko or as an English teacher, you work out very quickly that you have a lot of children who have needs, who you need to get assessments for, but you've only got 5 assessments available because that's all the money that you had in the pot to do that job. So the next tricky question you have got to manage as a Senko is which 5 children need that assessment the most. And this is the heartbreaking thing that happens when you are in this position, that you have to make a choice. Now, you work very hard to do diagnostic work and try and work who needs what the most. But what can happen is it can be the parent who shouts loudest who gets the assessment for their child, the engaged parent who recognises that there is a learning difficulty that needs to be assessed. If you haven't got a parent advocating for you, then maybe you're not even going to get on the radar for that assessment. And the other difficulty is, or the other thing is, it might be to do with a member of staff who's a fantastic advocate. So perhaps you've got some really good teacher training and you've got a member of staff who says, I see sensory processing difficulties. I know that this child needs a dyslexia assessment, and they will come and they will give the Senko very, very good information. And so that child gets prioritised. And this is how you allocate your tests as a Senko in a school very often. It's very rare to have an attached professional to your school who would come in and do assessments for you. It's even rarer to have a teacher who has got the appropriate qualifications in school who can do that work with you. We are now 10 years past the Rose Review, which was a wonderful opportunity for many professionals to take a qualification in dyslexia assessment. I was one of them. I'm a Rose Review kid, and so that was a wonderful point in time when people could actually professionally bring that qualification into their schools, and it was a tremendous time actually, with dyslexia awareness increasing. But I think what I have seen in the subsequent sort of last 5 years or so is that dyslexia has gone back under the radar, and the money has fallen out for testing. So yeah, what do you think about what's happening now? Because you'll be on the end of a phone line, I would have thought, sometimes, Sue, talking to people. What are parents and professionals saying to you about the current climate?
Yeah, this is really interesting what you said. You know, where have these teachers gone? There are not the jobs for them that trained with you. And this is really sad, because they want to be able to recognise and assess the children in their class who need the support. I think it's up to the special needs governor to make sure that all the teachers have CPD and as much training and awareness as they can. I mean, this is in the code of practice, and this needs to go on. And we campaign continuously for more awareness in teacher training for for teachers to be able to pick up on this. And actually, it is the parents that are mostly picking up on the difficulties. It wasn't so long ago that Lord Addington was reported in Hansard as saying, why is it that parents are the first to identify these difficulties? And yeah, so what's coming, we run a national helpline, as a lot of people probably know, or if they don't, perhaps we could put up the phone number afterwards for them. And we are getting calls from teachers and parents who are really concerned that the children are not being assessed anymore. It's just not happening, and especially during COVID, when we couldn't run the helpline, we were having 40 to 60 emails a day, and the majority from, well, I'd say actually probably 50% coming from parents concerned about recognising how their children were failing. Now that they had them at home, they could see more. It was more evident that they were having problems that were not being recognised. So yeah, it's really something that needs addressing. Another message that we have to get through.
I think certainly through COVID, there's been an acceleration of learning difficulties that have gone under the radar, not been identified, accelerated at home because teachers have not been, the professional skills to be able to see that there's a difficulty there. And now I kind of worry also about the social distancing aspect of learners with dyslexia who really benefit from close one-to-one support and encouragement, decoding, all of those good things that teachers and teaching assistants do are becoming far more difficult with COVID. And so that worries me that assessments are going to be put off as well, because to work with an EP and get a dyslexia diagnosis, you would need to be working quite closely with that child with the resources, and that's going to be a mask covered experience. And I think this is all getting very difficult, particularly if you want to look at a child's mouth as they pronounce words or make sounds, so that you can do this diagnostic work. So I recognise that COVID has thrown us a curveball that is really difficult to catch, to just even do this basic stuff. It's my understanding that the professionals are not getting into schools the way they were previously, because you come in and go out of a bubble, and then you would need to be elsewhere, and then you're at risk. So what can we do?
Well, yeah, quite a lot of things you brought up there. First of all, assessing, and then supporting. I think with assessments, like everybody else, we're going to have to start changing the way that we assess, and accept that we're going to have to find a way to order it remotely. We don't know how things are going to progress in the future, and of course if we do it remotely, we can see lip movements. You can see each other, and we can gain a lot of information and use our professional judgments. We won't be able to use perhaps exactly the same tests, but some of my colleagues are already doing this and doing remote assessments, and we have to rely on our personal professionalism to be able to get the right diagnosis that way. And as far as those that have missed out during COVID, we as an organisation have been tendering for government funding to help with a tutoring programme for children to catch up. And we're working with Helen Arkell Centre and Patos and Real Training, who are all colleagues of ours, and we hope that we will get a part of this and to be able to help those children who are pushed forward by their schools to need this support, and then they will get specialist attention and teaching from us. Yeah,
this petition's incredibly important then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really,
absolutely.
We need to raise awareness of what's going on, because the children who aren't supported are not going to succeed the way that we want them to. I'm going to just draw some, we've got some lovely questions that are coming in. There's lots of engagement happening on Facebook. Hi guys, thank you so much for engaging with us. I'm going to throw some questions at you, Sue. How does that sound?
Well, you may know more than me. Let's have a go.
Together we'll sort it. You wait and see. So Sarah says this is an experience that her son has been pushed off for years, while all of his teachers say he's dyslexic at school, but they're refusing to get the testing done. Sarah, if please sign the petition, I think that, and please share the petition as well, because this is an opportunity for us to encourage some movement on this. And you are right, and I think you are in exactly the same position as many other parents, in a state of frustration. And I know that actually I went on a brilliant BDA webinar when we went into COVID lockdown, and that it was a fantastic service provided by the British Dyslexia Association, where we had a webinar about how you support your dyslexic children at home. And so many people, so many people engaging and saying this is so stressful, it's turning our family life upside down, it's so difficult to cope with. And actually it's important we share that information. It's not just the child who is managing the impact of undiagnosed dyslexia, it's a whole family stress. Okay, I've got Tracy, you'll know the answer to this one, I know you will, who says, what age should a child be tested? Do they have to be able to read fluently?
Well, no, they don't have to be able to read fluently, but we wouldn't like to assess somebody under the age of 7 because they're still developing, and the baselines don't come in until 5, so you really can't get a picture that they're behind, and things do change and improve. So from the age of 7.
From the age of 7 onwards,
yeah,
you can start to get a good picture. I think you would have probably, maybe if you're involved in reading and learning with your child, you might have an inkling before that. And there are some interesting pieces of work from professionals and professional educators who are really keen to get into teacher training at those earlier years, just to kind of develop an awareness so that monitoring can start. Not necessarily conversations with the child or the parent, but just so that monitoring can start a bit earlier, so that we can, close the gap sooner. The sooner we close the gap, the better. The older you get with undiagnosed dyslexia, the more likely it is to turn to behaviour challenge.
We should say as well that there's a lot that the parent can do before the age of 7, as you say, monitor, but also look at contributory factors, look at whether they're visually developed, whether they're hearing properly, whether they're if they've got any speech difficulties or motor coordination problems. And these can all be addressed before that age. And they should be.
Yes, that's it. And I think the experience that I've had talking to parents is they have a first child, and the first child sometimes is not neurotypical and has difficulties, and it's only when they have child number 2 that they realise that the milestones have been missed. And so, yeah, it's our responsibility as parents just to keep looking at those milestones, I think, and trying to make sure that everything seems okay and get some advice when we're concerned. Okay.
Yeah, I think as well, though, I want to say that sometimes the second child is missed. If the first one was bad, the second one is not quite so bad, and goes through life assuming that there's nothing wrong, and it gets missed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. My gum, it's tricky, isn't it? I think if any of us get the blessing of dyslexia in our world, it's like we're being given a divine challenge to overcome. It becomes a life's mission. It really does. Okay, let's have a look at some questions. I've got Lauren, who said that she went privately to get an assessment done. Is this something that's happening more often, or do you think not? It's expensive, isn't it?
In the majority of cases, people have to go privately and be assessed. But then it's quite tricky because the schools don't have to take don't have any obligation to take any notice of the findings. It can be useful, and we hope that they're receptive and will use the information, but they don't have to take it on board if it's an independent assessment. But it will help. It will definitely help the parent and help the child, because with knowing where the strengths are and knowing where the weaknesses, we can work on it all together.
Yes, and that's it. And if you've got, and I think the teaching professionals often, they understand the limits of the school system that they're working in, and they are desperate to help, but they've got their hands
absolutely
tied. And that's how I felt. I felt that my hands were tied, which is part of the reason that I went off and did dyslexia training, was because it had to be overcome. I saw an opportunity and I went for it, and that was helpful. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we could bring something like Rose Review 2 round again and provide training for the next tranche of teachers with dyslexia specialism? It's a drop in the ocean to what we need, really.
Absolutely, yeah. We need more teacher training programs to have modules on dyslexia embedded in them. It isn't mandatory, and there needs to be more of it.
Yeah, absolutely does. Right, I've got John, and I'm just reading his now. As a parent, it would have been far more helpful if we'd been told by the school that if we played privately, it would have got our boy tested straight away. If it'd been told by the school that if we paid privately, they could have got their son tested straight away, rather than having to fight tooth and nail for years before they ended up paying for it anyway. Honesty. Honesty. But some of this comes down to the teaching professionals not knowing and not understanding. Nowadays, when teachers do their teacher training, there is so much to learn, and SEN is a small part of your teacher training element. And so when, as a Senko, my NQTs would come into my school, and I'd sit them down and I'd say, let's talk about SEN, let's find out what you know. And not only were they doing a qualification and taking on board lots of new information, but actually they had a very narrow understanding of specific learning difficulties, all sorts of SEN actually. But for me, the most common learning difficulty happening in school is SPLD, which is the umbrella of dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and sometimes ADHD comes into that as well. So that's the area where, unless you've had experience within your family or have got a specific personal interest, you may not have that knowledge. And I think it would be crucial. Can we do the next campaign around teacher training, please, Sue?
Yeah, well, we've done that several times. We've been doing it. I think we first started doing it in 1971, but sometimes these things take a long time to come to fruition. And, we just carry on campaigning. Yeah, we'll do it again. It's continually on the agenda.
So now, as head of policy for the British Dyslexia Association, I imagine that you have to go and present this petitions then that you have to present this to government. So how do you do that? You must be very confident, strong lady to walk in there with that environment. Must feel very intimidating. Tell me about the process of what you do.
Well, what we do in policy is take the issues forward that are coming through our helpline, and take them to the MPs and to decision makers. We take it to our all-party parliamentary group meetings and campaign. You know, last year's campaign went on for the entire year, making MPs aware of what the cost of dyslexia was to society. It's really eye-opening. Yeah, it's just push the whole time. We need the help of people who are living with dyslexia, either themselves or amongst their family or friends, to help with this, to write to their MPs as well, and to push these issues forward for us. The more people that do it with us, the more success we can have. If they don't know how to go about this, we have got help on how to write a letter to the MP, a template on our website, and I think that would be really helpful. MPs want to be able to help their constituents. They're not all aware of these difficulties, and unless we tell them about it. So as many people that can tell them, the better, please. We really like that.
Does it really work, writing to your MP?
Yes, it does. It really does. And that's wonderful when we get MPs that are interested. They will invite us to talk to them and to really get to the root of the problem and raise the issues whenever they can. And because it impacts on all sorts of issues within Parliament and bills that are going through. It's not just education, and they need to be informed, and they want to be informed. They don't go to a school to learn about these disabilities and or any disability. And it's only if they come across it personally they're going to know about it. And so, you know, they need to know from their constituents and in order to be able to help, and they do. Yeah.
So you advocate writing to your MP?
Absolutely, yeah.
And there are templates available on the website.
And you can see on our website how to find your MP if you don't know. They have surgeries, and now they're probably on Zoom, but normally they used to be on Fridays, and when they would see the constituents, and you could tell them about, you know, what was going on in school, what wasn't happening, and they would. Many of them will write to the schools on the parents' behalf and find out and push for them. Yeah, so they're there to help.
So this is one way, is we write to our MP. The other way that we can affect some changes by getting involved with petitions. So if you because everyone's going to share this with their friends on Facebook right now, they're going to take the link and they're going to share it with at least 2 friends and say, please share it with another 2 friends. This is very, very important. And I know that you're all up for that because you're good people. I know you are. So we're going to do that, and we're going to get some momentum behind signing the campaign for the British Dyslexia Association. And I think what I would love to know is what happens to that petition. So if you get your 800 more signatures that you need, how many have you got already?
4,200. We need another 800. That is to be able to raise the subject with them, and then it's open for discussion. Yeah,
just to raise the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
God.
We've raised it many times, and we're going to really have another push. As I say, we've been trying to push for more awareness in schools since 1971, and we're just going to carry on until we get it right.
Yeah. Well, you're expert at it. If you've been going at it since then, you know.
Not me, but
you do. I'm so sorry.
No, I've been doing it a long time, but not quite that long for me. But that's when we started, campaigning. Yeah.
But that's when we started, and it's important that we do campaign. And it's important that we do get involved and that we do make our voice heard, because the impact, as you said, is phenomenal on society. And I think that people don't necessarily understand actually the financial impact of dyslexia on society. Absolutely. And the numbers
a lot. Yeah, 80% of people who are dyslexic leave school without a diagnosis, and this is this is really sad. Yeah.
So if you leave school without a diagnosis, presumably you struggled through your qualifications and maybe not been particularly successful because you didn't get the help you needed to pass those exams at that point in time. So your potential within your career is going to be minimized. And although you might be fantastic at the job that you do, I'm going to use an example of prison officers, just because I've been involved in a study with prison officers. Many of them were dyslexic and had difficulties with their literacy, but they are absolutely amazing prison officers because they've got tremendous people skills and they're brilliant at de-escalating and communicating and prioritizing and understanding the bigger picture and all those fantastic skills that dyslexic people often have. And we want to promote these people who do their job really well, but when you say yes and now I need you to do a test in order to achieve promotion, those people don't necessarily go for those promotions. They get stuck at the bottom level of the career because they're too anxious to actually ask for assistive technology support help, or even disclose that you've got a difficulty, or they might not even understand that it's dyslexia, that with some assistive tech tools they could be overcoming these problems and accelerating through in life to do the things that they want to do. That's the thing that drives me to be an assistive technology support advisor, because I know that with good assistive tech it's possible to fly and do really
anything. To do anything, yeah.
Yeah, even to read a review in a restaurant.
People are held back. So many are held back in their careers simply because of that. They can't face the thought of doing an examination and failing.
How would the BDA help people like that if they got in touch with you? How would you advise them?
We have a network of dyslexia associations throughout the country. We could put them in touch with a local one where they could find local support. Otherwise, we'll talk them through their individual problems and try to find a way forward for them. They may not know what's available, like you say, like assistive technology. Many parents perhaps don't know that assistive technology is available in exams in school, but it has to be the child's normal way of working in order to be able to use it in an examination. And so the earlier that they can get to grips with using it, the better. And we need to encourage this in schools as well, because sometimes teachers haven't got the time to be able to learn new programs and to realize the benefits that they might bring for dyslexic. So that's another thing for another campaign. But again, it's continually on the agenda. Yeah.
The reason
it's available, and we just got to make people aware.
Yeah, that's it. We've got to keep talking, keep sharing. The reason I'm looking this way is that I've got a large computer screen and I've got some more questions that have come up. And I'm looking into my computer myopically here, trying to see. And actually, I've got a big screen over here and I can see the questions. So just bear with me. I'm going to just read you some more questions and more comments. Thank you, everybody who is commenting and sharing. Please keep, keep this live. It's a live stream, so keep sharing information with us. It's really
sharing, isn't it? Yeah.
Tell us if you signed the petition. Tell us if you've done that. We want to know that as well. Tell us if you shared with your 2 friends. Let me just have a look and see what questions we've got. So Apple says, I'd love to have a link with the professionals to share support platforms. My goodness, I've got Daniel saying, I was in development stage of dyspraxia at 10 years old. Oh gosh. Yes, of course it's okay to talk about this as part of dyslexia. Dyslexia is under this SBLD umbrella dyspraxia. DCD, developmental coordination disorder, sometimes called dyspraxia, and it can look very much like dyslexia because the lack of coordination can not just be eye-hand or physical, but it can be in your ability to organize your thoughts, and that's very common with dyslexics. Speed of processing difficulties, again, lots of commonality there, and it's under that same umbrella. It certainly is.
Yeah. Chloe, was there a question there about professional, wanting to join up with other professionals?
Yes, Apples
Yeah.
would like to have a link to share with support platforms. How would you advise?
Support platforms. I think if a person likes to contact our helpline, they'll be able to tell them about other about people in their organisations and how they have set up support platforms. For example, in HMRC, there's a very good professional group that support one another. In the NHS, another one, and where else? Well, there's several in the police force. And yeah, the various professionals are setting up in their own organisations, and that's very good. And we can give them information on how to set one up themselves.
That's good. Brilliant answer. Thank you. And I have got another one here, which is, I think I'm going to kind of condense this question to ask, because a few people are asking it. Would developmental coordination disorder, DCD, be covered within a dyslexia diagnosis, or is that something different?
Yes, it can be covered in it. I think if there are any concerns, it ought to be pointed out to the assessor, so that they make sure that they include tests for that. But very often they will refer on to a paediatric consultant or an OT for further assessments. But yeah, it is a specific learning difficulty that can be diagnosed by a specialist teacher or a medical professional.
That's it. I suppose, like dyslexia, there's a spectrum of it. So at one side, you know, that there are difficulties that you're having that you can learn coping strategies for, so that you could potentially go under the radar for years because you're so good with your coping strategies. And then the further across you get on this this radar, the more severe your difficulties are, the more debilitating, the more of a disability it is under the Equalities Act that you need very specific support to help you with. It's the same with DCD. It can go from a shaky hand that you might need hand grips or chunky pencils or things like that that might actually resolve your difficulty, all the way across to Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is where you have very floppy, flexible joints that can cause a lot of pain. So, and again, that, you know, you've got this whole spectrum that goes across, and it's just trying to find the right support between, is this an SPLD, a specific learning difficulty, or is this now something that we need to involve occupational therapy support for? And this is where you've just got to keep on talking to your Senkos, keep observing what you are seeing and talking to professionals, really.
And your GP. And your GP. Oh, your doctor.
And GP, yes, of course. Okay, I'm going to lean over and have another read of some more of these questions. It's got some brilliant you're very good at asking questions. I'll get there as much as I can. Okay, so Sarah says, my son started secondary school. What sort of support can I expect the school to give him? I feel it will be a battle, and I don't want him to be disillusioned with the education system. What would you say to Sarah?
I don't think she can expect anything. She needs to have that conversation with Senko. It won't happen automatically. No. In most cases. I think, is that right, Clay?
It's not going to happen automatically. If you have got a professional who is a really great professional in your school who is an advocate, that's great. That information will flow on, but I don't think you're necessarily going to expect anything to flow across. Transition is one of these really tricky areas, and during COVID, parents of dyslexic children, or children with undiagnosed learning difficulty, you kind of know something's not right, but you know you've only got suspicions, and you have been sitting at home with your children developing strategies to get them engaged, to get them learning, to get them happy, multisensory, hands-on, in there doing it, and they've gone back to school and maybe they're feeling a bit less engaged because they're not learning in the same way, that maybe having the same fun that you might have had at home. Your professional understanding of your child's needs is quite strong right now. I would be inclined to write my own transition passport and give it to the Senko and say, through COVID, when I was the teacher of my child, I recognised that, and I
That's
found
a brilliant answer. That's brilliant.
how about it? I'm all for self-advocacy. Get in there. And
yeah,
you know, you are now
just take it forward yourself. Well done. Thank you.
Well, you can be an expert, and it's okay. And the difficulty that we had prior to lockdown was that we felt that this was the job of the educational professionals, was to have these opinions and do this and know this stuff. And
we're all being teachers now. Yeah.
Now we're all teachers, and we've all got a knowledge of how our children function. And so lots of things have changed because of COVID, and I hope a bit of personal empowerment is part of it as well, for you to say, I know what I've seen, and I know how progress has been made, and I would like these opportunities to be made for my learner, my child, going forward. So there's a thought. Okay. I can't quite see your name. It might be Shannon or Shana. I'm sorry. Development coordination disorder, dyspraxia and dyslexia support. Why are schools and workplaces so behind with dyslexia in 2020? Still no, that's a shouty no. Still no help, or a shouty support. I know. It makes me hot under the collar and steam come out of my ears too.
Well, we've all got to shout louder and get this, a mandatory module in teacher training, and make sure that our schools, the teachers in the schools, have enough CPD to be able to cope with the issues. And for all of us, we need to target the special needs governor, because it's really their responsibility to make sure that the teachers are upskilling.
Yes. Your SEN governor is your best friend in schools if you can get to them, because they actually have got the voice in the place where it needs to be heard. I've had some brilliant SEN governors when I was a Senko. And if you are someone with skills, please volunteer to be the SEN governor at your school, because that is a way that you can really support and
push things forward.
Move things forward.
And if you don't know who the special needs governor is, then ask the school secretary. They have a load of information, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction.
Okay, I'm just going to scroll down because I can see, oh my goodness, we have got lots and lots of messages. Right, let's do these quickly. And get these voices of these people out and recorded. What would be the best intervention method to help children between the ages of 4 and 8? I'm currently doing a report in my degree, says Lauren.
Best interventions.
Best interventions to help children between the ages of 4 and 8. Lauren, if you've not yet discovered Letterland, I am a big Letterland fan. That will give you an idea of just how old I am. I still love Letterland. It is a really great learning strategy to work with children. If you've not yet discovered it, they've got really great work cards that are multisensory, tactile, build sentences, make sounds, have stories. I'm just a Letterland fan. There are others that you can explore, I would say, but in my experience, that's been enjoyed by children very much. Kat says it's difficult for parents to provide support and navigate assessment processes when they themselves are dyslexic or have other learning difficulties. How can we provide help to all parents who are struggling?
To navigate the system, is it?
Yeah,
we've got a very good publication on our website. If you can't find it, just email help BDA helpline and they can attach it for you on how to navigate the system. It is an issue, and it is a problem, and something that we've been consulting the government on. They are reviewing it, and they know that even the most articulate parents find it difficult to navigate. So there is a publication there to help you.
Well, I think we've got time for a couple more. because we're now up to 18:15. We said we were going to be 40 minutes. I think what we can do is we can continue answering questions in the live stream for you, and I can certainly do that and work with Sue to do that for you. I will try and do, are you okay to just do a few more, Sue? As many as we can?
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it a go. So
We can try.
how do you become a member of the British Dyslexia Association? Says Apple.
Go onto the website, www.bdadyslexia.org.uk, and there you'll see a link to membership. Yeah. Or you can join you can see there where to join a local one, which will attach you to us as well.
That's fabulous. Thank you for that link. And then Lauren says, what would be the best intervention method to help children? I know, done, Lauren. This is me. Up and down on the screen. Right. Navigation, done that question. Lysandra, 15, sorry, my 10-year-old nephew needs an assessment. He's in Birmingham. Where to go for support? So could you talk about LDAs, local dyslexia associations, for us, Sue? Because people might not know about them.
Yeah, there is a local association in Birmingham. But I think if they're looking for an assessment, they can contact us, because we have assessors all over the country. And we're literally doing unfortunately, hundreds a month throughout the country. So we'll have one in Birmingham. Yeah.
That's good. And I've also got a question from Sandra who says, where would you go to be a trainer if you wanted to learn to be a trainer? And presumably that might be to get your dyslexia assessment qualifications, says Lysandra. Great, please go ahead and do it. We need more.
Again, the BDA, the British Dyslexia Association, offer training courses in training to be a specialist tutor, or for the next level to be, once you've done that, to be an assessor. And information on that is available on our website as well. And not everybody wants to actually gain such a qualification and work so hard, but there are other courses on there as well for dyslexia awareness and how to help your children. Yeah.
Yes, it's a tough old qualification.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
Okay, but worthwhile doing, and you know, nothing is lost from learning. You just keep learning, and it's all good stuff. It all pays off. I've learned lots of things and I couldn't understand why I was learning it at the time. Somehow it's become important at some point in my life. It's just how it goes, isn't it?
And all the courses can be done online now, so there's no problem.
Okay, more questions. Sarah is dyslexic herself. It's very common for you to have dyslexic children. Sarah has, I think. She was not diagnosed until the first year of secondary school. As an adult, is still struggling. And her son has global developmental delays and sensory overload. You've got a lot of work to do. You have the blessing of a lot of work to do, Sarah.
I think Sarah should start using your assistive technology that you've been talking about, don't you, Clay? Because when you've had such a bad experience and you are severely dyslexic and you didn't do well in school, you may just be fed up with learning. And I would revert to using assistive technology to overcome these problems. We've got a technology committee who are only too pleased to answer any questions that you might have on that. Just send us an email, say, how do I do this or how do I do that to make my life better? And they'll be able to come up with an idea and a suggestion for you.
Oh, I think that's a really great bit of advice. And I'm also going to do a shout out for #SucceedWithDyslexia, which is a lovely think tank where there are videos, advice, lots of supporting ideas that you may find useful, webinars, videos. There are resources out there that are accessible. Emma, I've spoken to the head teacher who's also Senko, and she said that all children get tested for dyslexia in year 3 in Hampshire in England. Is that right? Oh, good. I'd love that if that was right.
Not something I'm aware of. I would ask the Hampshire Dyslexia Association about that. They're a really good association, and they're really up to date with what's going on in the area. You can find the number on our website, right at the bottom. Yeah.
I would imagine that there would be a screener that would take place. So it's possible to screen children quite easily, actually, with computer-based screening, but all that does is just give you the indicator of whether you need to do more diagnostic testing or not. So maybe that's what she does, but find out. Wouldn't it be great if all schools did that?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Some kind of baseline screening. It doesn't even have to be that very expensive test that we've talked about. It can be something that just helps you to analyse your cohort of children that you've got in front of you, so that you can deploy your resources effectively. If you're a Senko and you're listening to this message, take it on board, because if you've got some money to spend, it might be better spent screening a whole cohort of children, so that you can then work out where you've got to spend your money later. Okay. Just wear my advisor hat for a minute. So we've done Sarah and Neil. Neil, I've not seen the write-offs yet. He's watched the write-offs the other day, and he was wondering how you get involved with stuff like that in the future.
I have absolutely no idea. We didn't know that it was being produced, so we're good publicity for us, but I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, I don't know much about it. I've had to think about it. I've had to think about, you know, if this is a disability under the Equalities Act and we're making entertainment out of it, is that fair? Is that right? That's the kind of thinking I've done around it. But having not seen it yet, because don't have a telly, so I'll just have to wait a while until I can watch that. But I'm going to be very interested to see.
Some good points and some bad. Yeah.
Susan, any advice? Youngest son, 14, has both severe dyslexia and dyspraxia, struggling to get him proper support at school, and some teachers giving him spellings and anagrams to work out, and also need to get himself organised, planning revision. Any suggestions? Mind maps don't work for him. Thank you.
Yeah. I think this parent really needs to get in touch with the special needs governor, as it seems it's already gone through the Senko. I think they need some CPD training there on how to address these issues. Obviously, it's rather generic what they're doing, and not targeting this poor boy's particular difficulties. No two dyslexics are the same, and they each need an individual program, and this justice isn't working for him. And yeah, we don't want him put off. We want him to carry on being enthusiastic to get better. So got to do something about this. I'd contact the special needs governor.
Yeah, really great. Yeah? Great advice. Yes, absolutely. Go through the systems that you've got, work with the people who will work with you, and that's the best way forward.
And also ask the head if they can't go on one of these special programs that are going to be put out from the money that's being put up by the government for additional support, and push for a specialist teacher. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Andrew says, it's policy. There you go. Andrew says, I thought there was a new law that meant schools, FE, HE had to create inclusive documents.
I think you're right. Or I don't know about it being a law. Yeah, it may be a law. Yeah. Yes, I think you're quite right.
Because there's a need for websites certainly to have accessibility tools attached to them.
Yeah, I think ask your MP where it is if you can't see it. But it is supposed to be happening. Quite. Yeah. Thank you for reminding us about that.
Thank you. Tracy says, would you say you should go through GP as well as school to push for diagnosis?
No, not a GP for dyslexia, but for DCD and dyspraxia, possibly. Actually, GPs generally don't know very much about dyslexia, but in their training, they do have they do have awareness about dyspraxia, but there's nothing they can do. It is not considered a medical issue in this country. It's an educational one. In other countries, it is medical.
Yes, it is medical in other countries. Not here. Not here.
No. There might, if often, you know, dyslexia, it has an impact on other aspects like mental health, and I don't mean to say that so casually. It can have a great impact on mental health and anxiety, and in that case, yeah, go to your GP and ask them to help to push the issue forward for an assessment, because it can affect very much more than just literacy and numeracy, can't it, Claire? Yeah.
And as we are talking about assessments, I'd like to take this moment in time just to plug to please go and sign the petition, and share the petition with your friends, and try and generate some support and energy, because the more you share, the closer we're going to get to the numbers that the British Dyslexia Association needs in order to actually get this under the noses of the MPs, and to remind you that there are templates for letters that you can send to your MP too, because we need to go through the processes in order to raise the issues that we have got, and this is the best process that we have got, so we need to use it.
Thank you, Chloe.
Okay, you're very welcome. I'm just going to have a look through. How much does an assessment cost, says Emma, in big letters.
Generally between £400 and £700.
Not cheap, is it?
No, I've silenced you, Chloe. People might think this is a lot, but it takes several hours to do. There's a lot of work involved. The person has trained and spent a lot of money on training. And just to let you know that all the tests that they need actually come to about £2,500. So there's an awful lot of investment made by an assessor, and it takes a lot of man hours to produce the test and the results in a report.
Yeah, it does make me think that we ought to rethink this process of how we do the testing. And I've been there and I've bought tests and all the resources that go around these things, and it is extremely costly, and you need.
And they don't last forever. You know, the publishers updating ones every so often, and it's another £500. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sarah Dutton says assistive technology is amazing. Yes, it is amazing, isn't it? And it's brilliant, it's fab, and it's exciting, and it's enabling, and we all get very excited about assistive tech, and there is some really fab assistive tech out there, not just for dyslexic learners, but for people with learning difficulties very broadly. It's an area that excites me tremendously, to see people empowered and able to succeed and achieve. And so Sarah says it can provide information, basic support. Now, what about signposting for parents at work or the public library, or trying to stimulate some discussions to bring up the difficulties that adults have themselves? What kind of forums could we have going forward in order to share this information about assistive technology?
Forum. We do have a section of our website about assistive technology, and we have lots of YouTube videos out there. But yeah, she's got a point. We need to make more available, I think, for dyslexic adults, and there's a lot of focus on children. And now with what's been happening with us having to work at home and lose our jobs, people need to upskill themselves. I think there's a great need for this. So yeah, something that we need to push, I think.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a quick plug in that case, because you've asked the perfect question. There is a Dyslexia Learning Festival happening online via #SucceedWithDyslexia on the 26th of October.
No, I need to know the answer.
It's a free to attend event, and the discussion will be around adult learners, assistive technology, college age and exam age students, and the sort of technology that can support them going forward in their learning. So please navigate your way, not just to the British Dyslexia Association, which I think you should go to, but I also think you ought to go to, do a Google search for #SucceedWithDyslexia and follow some links and sign up for the festival so you can find out about EdTech and what's happening in schools and colleges to support learners with additional needs around literacy. So that's a bit of advice.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to, I think, the last question now. This has been an amazing event. I've really enjoyed our conversation, Sue, and I've enjoyed everybody who's contributed and put comments and talked with us. Thank you so much. A live event is made by people's contributions, so thank you everybody who has. Last question, or last comment actually, it's from Jacqueline, and her son's school stuck yellow cellophane over his prescription glasses rather than source other resources, and they told me for 2 years he had no dyslexic tendencies and it was not hereditary.
How sad. I think this parent ought to get in contact with Crossbow Education and ask them to send some samples to
the school. So I'm going to show you some things now. So scotopic sensitivity, it's not a disability, but it can improve the quality of your vision significantly if you are someone who finds that words on a page jiggle about. It's not necessarily dyslexia, it might be a visual difficulty. Now I have this, which means that I have overlays, and I also have these lovely pink prescription glasses. How good does that look? My Go Red glasses.
New ones.
So when I'm doing my academic reading, I've got my specs. You can buy very, very cheap ones, I think from Amazon, of all different sorts of colours. So it's worth looking online because you can do that. And you just mentioned Crossbow, who produce coloured overlays. It's worth getting the school to get a set of them.
They're really quite cheap, and I'm sure they would send some samples so that
I'm sure, and it just nails down the stuff on the page. It is not necessarily to do with dyslexia, Jacqueline, but it's often an indicator. It can be an indicator. So that might be why they told you that he had no dyslexic tendencies. So a bit of research, I think, is in order for you there. And perhaps it's a further conversation with the BDA on the phone.
We can help on our helpline with that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, then. Well, I have had a fabulous evening, and I hope that you will have too. I'm going to bring this event to a close because we have actually done all of your questions. How good are we? Aren't we fab? We are such good girls. Look, we got to the end of the class and got everybody's questions answered.
Thank you very much, Chloe.
Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Really lovely, yeah, and fun.
It's been really good.
So I'm enjoying Go Red and Dyslexia Awareness Week.
Yeah, keep going red, keep wearing red, keep baking red cakes and doing red things. All very, very positive that you do that, and share them too. I think you should. Okay, I'm going to close off this event now. Cheerio, have a lovely evening. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye-bye.